Hello everybody, I'm Tony Craig. This is F1 Grandstand and this is your daily Formula One news and specifically Friday Night Live, baby. And we have got a lot to get into. Adrian Newey officially has gone into hiding. Honda take the blame for the woes over Aston Martin. We have the full Bahrain test rundown. Stefano Domenicali responds to the driver's concerns about the 26 cars, and Piastri breaks his silence on Mark Webber. Yes, we've got a lot to get into. Yes, if you're a Formula One fan, you are in the right place. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash a like on the video if you do enjoy it. And also, if you do subscribe, make sure you've got the bell all icon ticked. That way you're in control of all the pieces of the content that you want to engage with. And yeah, it's Friday, baby. I hope you're all sat down, relaxed, glass of wine, a beer, or if it's in the morning for you over there, coffee, and settle in. This is a good one. So, it's been a big Bahrain test week, hasn't it? There's been some dramas, and like you can see on the thumbnail, Adrian Newey has gone into hiding. Now I need to build up to that because first of all, we're going to start with Honda, because Honda seem to have taken all the blame for Aston Martin's woes. This is coming out from motorsport.com. So Honda unhappy with its own F1 performance and not just reliability. Honda takes responsibility as Aston Martin's F1 Bahrain pre-season test goes from bad to worse. Yes, I think all the chat's going to love this. And I'm going to say hello to the chat right now. There's loads of you in there. Sulo, Drop Tune, Jim Clark's in there, our resident Formula One engineer. Reeves is in there. Kyle's in there, Peter Arnold's in there, Sulo. Oh my God, you're all in there. Dorley, God, the chat's been popping off, guys. If you are watching for the first time, make sure you get in the chat, say hello, let us know where you are watching from. Best community on the internet, let me tell you. Anthony's in there, Chef's in there. We've got Carly in there. Hey all, there you Carly, I see you. Thank you so much, John. Hooked on Classics in there. I think I've mentioned, Flaxton's in there. Brilliant, full house tonight, guys. So if you're watching for the first time, get involved, get in the chat, say hello. Everyone is super friendly. DT's in there. DT, look, you've got a little blue asterisk against you as well. Testing, I can see you, DT. It seems to have worked. Are you in Chesterfield, Carly? Just up the road. Just up the road. Right, let me go back to Honda. So yes, Honda 2026 Formula One power unit lacks performance as well as reliability, the Japanese manufacturer has admitted. Aston Martin's fastest lap overall, this is where it gets a bit embarrassing. So Aston Martin's fastest lap overall in Bahrain was 1 minute 35.9 by Stroll, which unfavourably compares to new team Cadillac at 135.2. That's 7/10 slower than Cadillac. Like, it's been terrible. This is what Honda had to say. Our main target during this week's test was to build up mileage on the power unit, check the engine reliability and gather data. Honda's trackside general manager and chief engineer Shintaro Orihara stated, "We collected data successfully, however, we didn't achieve the accumulated mileage that we were targeting." No shit, Sherlock. On Thursday, we identified an issue in the power unit and all of us have been uniting efforts to find a solution during our last day of testing, overnight and today. HRC Sakura and Aston Martin Racing in Silverstone and our crews in Bahrain worked together on a limited run plan, which was jointly agreed considering a shortage of parts. I'm coming to this. They said it's been an enduring week, but we extend our thanks to the team for their support, trackside, and everyone working in Japan and the UK remotely. Overall, we are not happy with our performance and our reliability at the moment. However, we are all looking for solutions together with Sakura, Milton Keynes, and Silverstone. So yes, they said, as you heard there, a limited run. That's what they said yesterday about today. So this is what came out. This was their statement. Our last run with Fernando Alonso, this was yesterday, showed a battery-related issue that impacted our test plan with the Aston Martin Aramco Formula One team. Since then, we've been carrying out simulations on the test bench in HRC Sakura. Due to this and a shortage of power unit parts, we have adapted today's run plan to be very limited and consist only of short stints. That's what they told us this morning. Well, let me just tell you how short that run plan was. Are you ready? Aston Martin's final day of F1 testing. They did 6 laps. 6. And they didn't even complete the 6 laps. 4 laps, Lawrence Stroll went out to do some software installs. And then they did 2 more laps where they came out of the pits, didn't complete the lap, and went back into the pits. That was it. That's a bloody limited run plan, Aston Martin. 6 laps after failing yesterday, where Aston Martin's recharge system from the hybrid system failed and Alonso was left stranded in the middle of the track. It's not been pretty, but it gets worse. And this brings me nicely onto the thumbnail. Adrian Newey is hiding from the media as Aston Martin decide to write off the 2026 season. I mean, that's pretty bad. So what happened? After on-track stoppages and limited running on the first 2 days, Honda released a statement, which I just read this morning, that they would be restricted to short stints. Yeah, 6 laps. But this is where it gets bad. So all of this drama has been unfolding with Aston Martin, completing the least amount of laps than any other team throughout testing, right? And then, while all this drama's going on, Adrian Newey goes into hiding and we have the proof. So circumstances like this, it falls to the team principal to take accountability in the media. As we know, this is where the team principal needs to come out, face the media, take the difficult questions and tell the fans what's going on. Newey has not done that. They must be willing to answer difficult questions, particularly with so many fans demanding an explanation. But Newey instead sent out team ambassador. You're thinking Jenson Button. No. They sent out Pedro de la Rosa to face the scrutiny. Aston Martin shared a message from de la Rosa on their social media channels this morning, with the Spaniard laying out the team's plan for the end of the test and to build up to Australia. I mean, imagine that. Imagine Newey sending poor old Pedro de la Rosa out to try and appease the fans, to appease the sponsors, to give some information as just to why Aston Martin are in such a bad state. And do you know what? You think I didn't think I'd leave you hanging. Here it is. Here's Pedro de la Rosa.
Pedro here, last day in Bahrain, testing, pre-season testing. Yesterday we had some battery-related issues on Fernando's car. Since then, a lot of simulations are being carried as we speak in our test bench in Sakura. And due to this and the fact that we have a shortage of parts, this means that our next few runs will be compromised. We will be doing less laps, short runs, very short stints, and we have an hour breaks in between them, really to actually have time to look into the data. Despite the lack of running and mileage, definitely we are not where we wanted to be, but we have managed to gather a lot of data, and this will will give us the opportunity to have the next few days to look into the data and come up with solutions. We know which areas we really need to focus and improve on the car, which is very positive. The new set of regulations are very challenging as well, but they're also fascinating. So it was never going to be easy. We knew that, but we also have great resources. We have our campus, in Silverstone. We have Sakura working flat out in order to get us where we wanted to be, and we just have to push on. We have a few days before Australia as well, and we are not where we wanted to be, but that doesn't mean that we won't get our mission completed.
So I also got hold of Adrian Newey and said, can you add to Pedro de la Rosa's comments?
No, I can't.
Thank you. But that is crazy, isn't it? So he sends out Pedro de la Rosa to give the full statement. Really kind of like, okay, you're getting an ambassador wage. This whole thing highlights why Newey, honestly, shouldn't be TP. He shouldn't be team principal, and this is in no way disrespect to Adrian Newey. Adrian Newey needs to design the car, own part of the team, lead all the design and everything else. But if you cannot face the media when it's tough to do so, you've got no right being team principal, and that's the truth. And I say this, with the utmost of respect for what Adrian Newey can do. I'm a big Adrian Newey fan, but people need to do different jobs in the team for that team to work effectively. Could you imagine Toto Wolff not coming out to face the press? Not a chance. Broad shoulders. Of course he'd speak to the press. Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, Christian Horner. None of these bosses would hide away through when things are going badly. They wouldn't. They would be out there front and centre going, yeah, it's a freaking shit show. We're trying to solve it. But Newey's hiding. And like I said, I'm a Newey fan. I believe in the ingredients that Aston Martin have on the table. But you can't shy away from the difficult moments if you're team principal. And it highlights that's the one bad decision. Well, one of the bad decisions that Aston Martin have made. Adrian Newey is not a team principal. He's a car designer and he's amazing at it. And he's probably a great team owner. He can lead that team within the confines of Aston Martin. Internally, they all say what a great leader he is. And that's where he should sit. Internally, leading the team. But externally, they need a mouthpiece. They need a guy. They need a team principal to do all the stuff that Newey either is scared to do or is crap at. Let him do what he's good at. And I think Newey needs to... You're not tested until it's difficult, are you? As a leader, you are not tested until the shit hits the fan. The shit has hit the fan at Aston Martin. And Newey, you have gone into hiding. And now, it isn't good. And let's just take a look at some of those moments from Aston Martin. So this was Lance Stroll's spin in Bahrain. Another look at it here. Not his fault. Not his fault. This was where the woes, the serious woes, started. They did get the car back out on track for Fernando Alonso, and then Alonso had his failure. Honda have held their hands up, and they're really saying, hey, I think this is us, right? I think it's not the chassis. I think this is us. But if you saw Lance Stroll's face when he got out of the car, he's not happy. Papa Stroll's not happy. None of them are happy. And even when I spoke to James Voles and said, James, are you worried about Aston Martin beating you this season? Are you anxious about it?
Strangely, no, I'm not anxious.
He's not anxious. And then I said to Toto Wolff, do you think it's funny what's happening over at Aston Martin?
Having a laugh. Yeah. Generally, we have laughs, and that's good. We've always maintained the laughing, even when it was not so much to laugh about.
But this is the thing, right? Everyone's like, no one's anxious. People are laughing. Aston Martin, it's been a shit show. And I know you've seen me big up Aston Martin so much, but, we've got to call it how we see it. It's been a freaking disaster. And the big disappointment, I think it says a lot. Adrian Newey going into hiding is seriously not cool. I'm going to go to the chat, see what you guys are saying. So I'm going to try and catch up with the chat. So Dawley says Newey being TP meant he had more control and gravitas over the team, maybe to help pull them in all the same direction. But Dawley, this is my point. He owns the team. He's got shares in the team. He can still operate with all of that internally. In the factory, he's the guy, right? And even when you look at his relationship back at Red Bull with Horner, he was the guy when it came to designing the car and engineering. Horner would just facilitate it and do all the bits he wasn't good at. But I actually think that, he's suffering for not having that type of person. And he can still be the guy leading everything. But yet, internally, externally, to the rest of the world, the Formula One fan community, and everyone else, I just don't think he's the right man for the job. That's what I think. Memory Man, I see you in there. Welcome to the chat, buddy. I think he's only TP temporarily. I don't think the plan was to keep him TP for very long. It's a waste of time for him. Exactly. This is in no way me saying that I don't think Adrian Newey isn't the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. I just think some people are meant for some roles. And if it is temporary, okay. If he's filling a gap temporarily, then good. Make it super temporary. Because I think having his time freed up solving the problems that need to be solved, sat at his desk, like the savant that he is, and have somebody else face the difficult questions. Have someone else do the schmoozing, smoothing it over. And that's what he needs. That is genuinely what I think. It's not the right setup at the top of that team. He can still run things, but have him running things internally. Externally, he doesn't need to be in that spot. That's what I think. That's what I think. Crackeye. Aston Martin are just giving everyone a head start. Yeah, maybe. They're giving him a bloody big head start. Jaman says, who do you think is better, technically minded spokesman, Pedro de la Rosa or Jenson Button? I think, honestly, look, I think Pedro, we all watched what Pedro said. I'm going to give Pedro some credit. I think Pedro did a pretty good job, right? When they basically threw him to the wolves. Adrian's gone, go on, get out there, make a statement, try and make something positive out of this shit show. I feel that Pedro did a pretty good job. He gave us a shit sandwich, didn't he? Said the good bits, told us all the shit, and at the end, he tried to make it a bit positive. And that's what I think. Random shite, great handle, says, they need to bring Horner in that spot. Horner or someone like Horner would be perfect. I just think they missed the boat. I think Horner's not on the table anymore. But yeah, that's what I think. Potluck's in there, but now is the wrong time to make him TP. He's got far too much to do. You're right, Potluck. Like, he's got to solve the real problems. Like get the car to last 70 laps, make it quick. The Honda power unit is no good, right? Somebody needs to try and grab Honda by the scruff of the neck and try and get them up to speed. That's what I think. Flatlander says, guys, from Shropshire, best pod going. Thank you so much, Flatlander. I love it. I'm so glad to have you as part of the community. But yeah, Sulo says, all this is happening because Aston Martin want to make their own gearbox. Actually, I thought that too, Sulo. But now, the truth is, I don't think it's the gearbox. I actually do think it's Honda power unit. And the thing that's letting them down is Honda are only making the power unit for Aston Martin. So they are so behind the curve when it comes to data collection. And I think Honda are struggling. They also struggling because it's not the best of Honda engineers that built the engine for Red Bull, the championship winning Honda. They may have one or two senior people on that team right now, but because Papa Stroll basically brought them back into Formula One when they'd already decided we're out of Formula One, and all their top engineers were then moved into different departments in Honda, they had to rebuild a Formula One engine production department. So they probably brought in a couple of senior people, but the rest of the engineers are probably doing it for the first time. They probably just wanted the opportunity. I don't know whether they've got the top guns on that project. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. But that's what I think, and I think it's going to be tragic for Aston Martin if they don't start sort of making better decisions. And here's the big thing, right? This is the elephant in the room. You heard me tell you about the results, right? Aston Martin, 7/10, their fastest lap was 7/10 slower than Cadillac. You've heard me talk about the 107% rule before, haven't you? There is a danger that Aston Martin at Melbourne will not be within 107% of the fastest qualifier in Q1, and that means they are disqualified. That means they cannot take part in the race. So in Q1, if Aston Martin don't put a lap in which is within 107% of the fastest qualifier in Q1, they are disqualified and they cannot race. And this now is a real, genuine possibility. Could you imagine the tragedy for Aston Martin if that happened? It's so bad. But yeah, it really is. No, Cadillac was 7/10 quicker. Chef, they were 7/10 quicker. Duresta, welcome to the chat, buddy. Is it possible for any team to change their power unit and manufacturer mid-season? Is it even allowed? Those deals are, right, power unit customer team deals are complicated and specific. So without seeing the actual contract, getting out of that contract means, because if you're a customer team, you're normally a customer team for a minimum of like 3 years, 4 years, maybe even 5 years. So that way, if you're the team supplying that team, you know what that value of that deal's worth. Now, there are performance clauses, but if those performance clauses aren't met, then you can break the deal. But if you're Aston Martin, who's going to sell you an engine? That's the truth. Mercedes, Toto Wolff will not sell Aston Martin a Mercedes engine again. Toto Wolff has already said, having 3 customer teams is too many. He regrets that. He thinks a sweet spot is 2 customer teams only. But they've got 3 that will honour those deals. They won't do another deal with Aston and have a 4th customer team. Ferrari, they probably wouldn't sell Aston Martin an engine. Audi might, but again, I think they're stuck. They're stuck in this boat. And also for Honda to come back into Formula One, the deal they have with Aston Martin is for 5 years. They can't break that deal unless they don't hit the performance clause. But who do they go to? Right? Who builds them an engine? I mean, it's a shit show. It is a shit show. So I don't know. Jaman says the time Aston Martin had to integrate the delayed newly developed Honda engine and Aston Martin transmission and Aston Martin chassis just was not long enough. Yeah, they're 4 months behind the curve, but they all knew the time constraints, right? They all knew when Melbourne was going to be. They have to bring a car that at least is within 107%. Right, they need to race. Otherwise, Honda don't get any more data for their engine. So if they can't be so far behind that it's deemed basically unsafe to race, they have to be close enough to get the lap time, so the track time, so Honda can make the engine better. The jeopardy is real. I'm serious. It's genuinely a tough spot for Aston Martin. It really is. And we're going to get into actually breaking down Bahrain, because there are some good news stories from Bahrain as well. Aston Martin is the shit show, right? But we have got some pretty cool stuff as well out of Bahrain. So let's go to Bahrain's test results. So this is today, and we saw the fastest times of the week. So test 2, which is the second week of Bahrain, day 3 today, Friday. Charles Leclerc, look at that. And by the way, I can remember what the tyres are on. Charles Leclerc was running C4s. He was on the medium tyre, and he put the fastest time in today with a 1:31.9, and he completed 132 laps, and he was on the medium tyre. Why is this important? Well, the pole time last year, the qualifying time was a 1:28.9. So to be at 1:31.9 on the medium tyre, not even on the soft tyre, we're looking like we're in good shape for the speed of these cars, actually. So Lando Norris in the McLaren, also on the medium tyre, did a 1:32.8, which is 9/10 slower. 9/10 slower. And he did 47 laps. Max Verstappen in the Red Bull did a 1:33.1. I mean, Ferrari showing some great pace here. George Russell in the Mercedes was 4th fastest with a 1:33.1. Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, he was on the C5, he was on the soft tyre. So this lap isn't really representative or a direct comparison to those 4. But he did a 1:33.1 and he completed 82 laps. Sorry, he did a 1:33.4 and completed 118 laps. Ollie Behrman on the medium tyre, doing very well. That Haas is definitely best of the rest. A real encouraging performance from Haas. Ollie Behrman, 1:33.4, did 88 laps. Gabriel Bortoletto, Audi. I cannot compliment Audi enough. Audi mixing it up with the best of the rest. Up there, excuse me, on a 1:33.7 and did 71 laps. Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, a 1:33.9, 49 laps. Lindblad did 165 laps, a record of ever, I think, of the amount of laps completed in a single test day. 165 laps. Well done, Arvid Lindblad. A 1:34.1. Carlos Sainz in the Williams, 1:43.3 on the soft tyre with 141 laps. So the Williams still lacking in pace. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, a 1:34.35, did 66 laps. Ocon in the Haas was looking really good until Behrman got in the Haas and really took him to school. Much better performance from Behrman than Ocon in the Haas today. 1:34, 82 laps completed. Hadjar out there in the Red Bull with a 1:34.5, did 59 laps. Bottas, Gemma's favourite, queen of the chat, Bottas Cadillac, 14th. Up there, did a 1:35.2, did 38 laps. Nico Hulkenberg did a 1:36, did 64 laps. Perez in the Cadillac did a 1:40, 61 laps. And Lance Stroll, no time. They did 6 laps, but never actually truly completed a lap. Came out the pits, did like an out lap, and then came straight back into the pits. Did not record a time all day with those 6 laps. So those are your times. But that gives you what happens for today. But let's talk about the winners and losers, really. Because I think overall we've seen some pretty unexpected winners. The biggest loser, as we know, Aston Martin, for all the reasons we've already talked about. I would put down my biggest winner as, if you'd have watched any of my shows at the end of last season, right, December 25, you would not believe what I'm about to say. Ferrari look like they are in front. Engine looks great. They're the only engine with a steel cylinder head. They've brought some cool innovations to their car. The revolving rear wing, the Ferrari flap, and fast. I just think Ferrari are looking absolutely great. And while we're talking about Ferrari, while I'm saying how good they are, just have a look at this. Innovations galore. Okay, so they didn't run it today. They ran the revolving wing yesterday. They ran their normal standard wing today, and they got the fastest time with it. But they're bringing innovations, and not to mention the revolving wing. We've got the Ferrari flap, right? The way they've designed the rear end of that car to create a 60mm space in order to have this flap behind the exhaust gases. Like, Ferrari are innovating, and their turbo technology. They got it right. Fred Vasseur warned everybody last year. Turbo spooling's going to be a problem when we get rid of the MGU-H. Everyone said, nah, Fred, wind your neck in. We're not changing any rules about that. So Fred then goes and engineers a turbo and a solution which is better. And here's the proof. Look at this practice start from yesterday.
Sounds good. And he even had to sort of back out a bit, a little bit, because the cars in front of him were going so slowly. But yeah, wow. a sweet start there. So
Lewis Hamilton went from 7th to 1st into turn 1. Like, Ferrari are getting it right. And other big winners we have to mention, right? Haas with the Ferrari power unit. In that video you just watched on the start, who was the other car? Which other car got off the line well? Yeah, Haas. Which other team has been bulletproof with reliability in testing? Yeah, Haas. Which team has been away from the big four, away from Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull? Who has been best of the rest? Haas. In speed, in reliability, the car looks great. The livery's awesome as well. And Behrman's looking brilliant. Haas. absolutely one of the big winners coming out of Bahrain. Another big winner. I've been talking about a lot on the live stream, on the watch-alongs. Audi. How brilliant have Audi been? They've been up there mixing it in the midfield. Audi, right. And here's the thing. If you're going to pitch two teams on a side-by-side versus, really we should be looking at Aston Martin versus Audi. Why? Because Aston Martin had their own team last year, just like Sauber were a team last year. Now, what are the big differences? Aston Martin have gone with Honda to develop them a new engine. Audi are developing their own brand new engine tech. Yet Audi have shown reliability, consistency, and some pace, and they are mixing it up in the midfield. And Sauber were sort of a lower midfield team. Now you could argue, just looking at testing, Audi are looking like a high midfield team. Whereas Aston Martin have gone backwards, back of the grid. Adrian Newey hiding, the car's not putting the laps in, Honda engine underpowered, rattles, all sorts of problems. They've got a shaking problem, a gearbox potential problem, just terrible. So really, if you had to do a versus, it was Aston Martin versus Audi. Audi showing Aston Martin how it's done. This is how you bring a brand new power unit to the grid. Credit to Matteo Binotto. Credit to Wheatley. Credit to, I mean, you got to say, even Zimmerman, who built, by the way, the Ferrari power unit. Audi then poached him to go over to Audi's power unit. That guy is probably an unsung hero because we're looking at the fruits of his labour with the Ferrari engine, looking brilliant. And now we're looking at Audi, who are bringing their power unit for the first time. And they brought Zimmerman in. Zimmerman might be like an absolute sort of best signing of the season. He seems to know his stuff. So yeah, Audi, brilliant. Well done, Audi. So I think there are some real winners. I'm going to get to the chat and see what you think about this. Kyle says, Ferrari's flip wing is great for sponsors. You're on the back now on the front. That's true. That's a really good point. Really good point. Droptune says, it'll be funny if Hamilton wins a championship after the nightmare last year. Listen, if Hamilton's just competing for podiums, I think it's going to be great if you're a Hamilton fan. Chef says, I think we might have a three-way for driver's title. Verstappen, Piastri, Leclerc, and three-way for constructors, Merck, McLaren, and Ferrari. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, Red Bull are winning on battery management and regeneration. Don't forget, Red Bull and Audi, again, both clocking up the fastest times on the straight there in Bahrain. Both getting over 340 kilometers per hour down the main straight. Audi have got the biggest turbo out of anybody. But yeah, I'd say there's something going on at Red Bull as well. I wouldn't rule them out. Peter says the practice start was electric and even the cheeky overtake on Russell into turn one was funny. Yeah, it's great to see it. It is great to see it. Jaman says Audi has been planning and developing for 4 years. Aston Martin has only been working on a season from late 24. That's a good point. I mean, I do think Audi, the Germans, I do think they're organised, right? And I just think it's in their nature. And I think Audi came to play. They came prepared, is what I'm saying. They've done their homework and they've come with a goal in mind to win the Constructors' title by 2030. And you know what? They just might do it. Reezy says, could it be hammer time once again this year, but Ferraris are looking strong? I hope so. I do. I really do. I mean, I think it's nice to see that Audi are doing well. I think it's nice. And also Alpine, we've got to give them a special mention. Alpine have improved. They're a strong midfield team now, looking at this data. Like last year, they're a P10 team. They're last all the time. All points scored by Pierre Gasly. And I think Pierre Gasly outperformed that car. Pierre Gasly, now they're giving him a car. They're giving him a car that's solid mid-table midfield team. They've given him an engine. That Mercedes power unit, all thanks to Flavio Briatore. But the Alpine's improved, hasn't it? It's running solid times. I think the midfield battle is actually going to be quite exciting. I think you've got Haas at the top of it at the moment. And then I think you're going to have Alpine, Williams, and Audi. They're the three teams I think are going to be competing for sort of the fifth spot. And I think it'll rotate around, but I think Haas looks best. That's what I think. That's what it's looking like at this early stage. Selvin says, Hammy gonna go ham this year? Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, I mean, is GM still watching? Yeah, drop tuned. Where's GM? Where's the engineer when we need him? Where is he? But yeah, it's been an interesting situation. I think there's been some unexpected results. That's what I think. And poor Aston Martin, some big problems there. So yeah, it's been a wild couple of weeks, hasn't it? But I want to know what you think. Like, I think I'm going to do a quick poll. Here's my poll. And because the show really has been about, a lot of it's been about Aston, I'm going to ask a very quick question. Should Adrian Newey be... I should have done this earlier, but I want your opinion on this. B, team principal. I think... I can't even spell. So we're going to have a little poll. There it is. It's up. It's up. I've done a question. Is that not a pot? I've done a Q&A instead of a poll. I'm gonna end that because I've done the wrong thing. Hang on. Let me do that again. Should Adrian Newey be TP at AM? Let's try that again. This makes it easy. You can just click on yes or no. So yeah, I mean, I think that is the poll for tonight. Yeah, I know, Sulu. Yeah, Sulu's taking the piss. Tony, the tech specialist. I know. I say I'm not an engineer. I also, what's really funny about me as well, if I have to type anything, I still type like this. I'm 2 fingers. I'm so slow. I don't see the yes, no options. Yes, I know, DT. I fixed it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you're watching on replay, don't worry, it's normally a lot slicker. Our live streams. But yeah, I mean, it's been a wild week. So what do we take away? We take away Ferrari seem to be innovating more than anybody else. Audi with their Ozempic side pods seem to look all right as well. Red Bull seem to have mastered the battery regeneration tech better than anybody else. McLaren seem to have a solid platform. And as we know, team principal Andrea Stella said, we're not about bringing new upgrades. We want to see what everyone else is doing first. But they have brought you've got to give it to them. They've brought a solid platform to build from. Because if this is McLaren straight out the box, because that's what they want us to believe. Here we go. Here's your McLaren straight out the box. We're not doing anything until we see everyone else's cars, and we're actually going to wait till the race in Melbourne before we decide our development strategy and our upgrade program. That's what Andrea Stella said. Well, they've got it pretty damn right out of the box because McLaren is up there. It's definitely going to be competing top 3-4 teams for sure. So everyone's got some takeaways which are good. Alpine's improved. It's only Aston Martin that are tragic, and even Cadillac deserve a special mention. Cadillac built a car from zero. They didn't buy a team. They just manufactured. They built a team from nothing in 12 months, and they've got a car that's doing better than Aston Martin, and they are well within 107% as well. They will qualify and be able to take part in the races. From Melbourne, they will be in the race, and to just get on, just to qualify into the race with a brand new team is an achievement. So I expect Cadillac to have a rapid rapid improvement. But yeah, it's been a brilliant Bahrain test for all sorts of different reasons. But I do need to get into the next story. So, as you know, Max Verstappen, if you've seen any of my videos this week, has been laying into the 26 cars, speaking openly and honestly, saying what we all think, that the cars are like Formula E cars on steroids. They're not nice to drive. Formula One shouldn't be going in this direction. Get rid of the battery. And then really sort of avoiding the press officer at F1 management. Well, Max Verstappen didn't avoid Stefano Domenicali, the boss of the FIA. Domenicali has been taking the temperature of all the drivers. And this is what his statement said. There's quite a bit. So, we've met with all the drivers, said Domenicali, who met with Charles Leclerc shortly before speaking with the media, whilst he also held talks with Verstappen on Wednesday. As you know, he's incredible, added F1 CEO and president. He has a way of saying things sometimes that can be interpreted in a certain way, but I guarantee to you that Max does care about Formula One more than anyone else. We had a very constructive meeting, and he will have a very constructive meeting also with the Federation, the FIA, to highlight his point of view and what he believes needs to be done to keep the driving style at the centre without changing, let's say, the approach. We shouldn't forget that the evolution of the technology behind the cars requires, of course, a different way of driving them. That has happened in the past, and this will happen in the future. But I can guarantee, and I really, really share the fact that everyone has been very, very constructive, that the comments of the first day are really different from the comments of the third or fourth days of driving. And this will evolve. I'm pretty sure that when we sit down together in the middle of the year or at the end of the year, you will see a different picture of comments, a different picture of political debate, because that's normal in Formula One. Everything has happened the same way since the beginning, with every step change in the regulations, both from a technical perspective and from the drivers. When there was a change in 2021, some technical director was saying that the car was slower by 6 or 7 seconds. And that was not the case. And we saw what happened after a couple of years. My style is always to be very prudent, to try and solve things internally, because we don't have to highlight things that are not in the interest of the fans. That's his little dig at Max from speaking out. But we know that Max will be part of the future of Formula One. Of course, it's very important we listen to him, as we are listening to all of the top drivers who are very important in this sport. And then he was asked why he's so certain that Max will be in Formula One in the future. Because I have a very good relationship with Max. I know him very, very well. I spend a lot of time with him. That's the reason, full stop. And he loves Formula One, and there's no doubt about it. So what do we take away from that? Well, we take away that Domenicali says, I would have preferred that we handled this internally, Max's comments, but I respect what he's got to say. And we, the FIA, are listening. That's what the message is. We're listening. We're listening to Max. We're listening to the top drivers. I think he's also setting the caveat that, look, even if Max says, ditch the battery, he knows we can't do that now. These regulations are here for 5 years. There's been too much money spent, too much development on power units. It is what it is. Can Max help us as fans steer Formula One and the FIA to a new direction for 2031? I think maybe. I think it's not just Max. I think even the manufacturers and the power unit manufacturers would like to go back to V8s with sustainable fuels. If the fuel technology this season is good, sustainable fuels work out, and they get cheaper, and could we see the battery element leaving Formula One? Maybe. I think it's a maybe. I think if the major manufacturers like Audi, Ferrari, Mercedes can get away from the political argument from all the governments around Europe wanting a certain amount of EVs being sold, and we can get away from that, and we can get them to say, all right, we can get back to combustion engines if the sustainable fuels are acceptable, and we can get away from the whole EV nonsense, then maybe. But I think it's a wider discussion outside of Formula One. It involves politics, and we know, like, we don't do politics here in F1 Grandstand, but I think this is a wider discussion. But right now, what we take away from Domenicali's comments is we're listening, the FIA's listening. However, bear with us, give us some time. These cars will evolve, the regulations will evolve, and when there's talk of cars being slower than the previous generation, we always end up having a faster car, a new fastest lap time on all circuits. So what I think he's calling for is calm, steady approach. Let's see how this shakes out. If it is a disaster, well, we need to see that unfold. Unfortunately, we need to see that car crash. If they can't sort of solve this clipping issue, if the racing's worse, if battery management is just ruining the sport, and we see it, and the fans in their droves are complaining race after race, then they will do something. They will act. But I think that is the message from Domenicali. Jim Clark says, I'll be keeping a lower future approval unless asked a direct question. No, Jim, jump in. We love it. We love that you're an active member. Don't hold back. Peter Arnold says, how does Stefano know what the fans like? Not all of us arrived with the drive to survive. Some of us like the technical stuff. Well, this is true. I think that's true. The F1 fan's an interesting breed. You've got different levels. You've got some people who have followed the sport from the 70s. I've seen them in the chat. That like that old school, balls to the wall, pure petrol. And then you've got fans who love the advancement in technology and are here for it if it works and if it makes the sport better. And then you've got some fans that don't like the technical stuff at all. They just like to see cars race around the track and like the drama, and they follow the individuals. You've got all sorts of different fans. Every fan just as important. We welcome all fans here at F1 Grandstand, but they derive different enjoyment from the sport because of how involved they get. And we need to try and, bring something for everybody. Dawley says, I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb here, but I'm all for hybrids in F1. I love that, Dawley. Do you know what? Even though I'm banging on about getting rid of batteries, that's what fan communities are about. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, and we support that. We give free speech here at F1 Grandstand, and we support it, and we don't knock you down for it. We respect your opinion. And what I love as well is people are able to articulate why they like that. And that's totally cool, because I always say this. The sign of an intelligent person is somebody who is not so married to their view that they won't listen to an alternative point of view. I'm open to my view being changed. If somebody gives me an articulate argument and validated with facts that's better than my view, I will change my view. That's the whole point of being somebody who I think is intelligent. We want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to learn. And sometimes, it's hard to change someone's opinion because they can validate their views from their viewpoint, and all of it's great. And that's what we encourage here. Well, that's what we love here on this channel. Morse, too true, Dawley. Yeah, Morse is back in the hybrids as well. I've missed one of the drop tunes. Jimbo, 2031 for V8s. Cadillac will use Chewy engines. I tell you what, I think Cadillac will do well with a V8 engine. I think they'll bring something good. Moore says, Max has always been a great driver, but a petulant gobshite. I think a lot of people agree with that, Morse, as well. Without relevance to modern tech, the money from manufacturers leaves, and so does F1. I agree to that. I understand that as much as I like sport to be sport, it is a business, isn't it? And it operates as such. And now the F1 business is growing at a phenomenal rate. New fans coming into the sport, new manufacturers, new eyeballs. America's a huge untapped market. We need, as it's growing in popularity in America, this, 250 million people in America. If it grows in America, brilliant. And so it's good for everyone in Formula One, really, that the sport grows. So I understand that the FIA are in this position of it's like this balancing act of commercialism and sporting activity, and those two things don't go well together. Sport is supposed to be pure, and unfortunately, as soon as things get commercialized and money corrupts, doesn't it? So how do you have the purest sporting racing competition whilst you've got huge money coming to sport, which is trying to corrupt and get their piece of the pie. It's a difficult balancing act. It is. And I wouldn't like to have to do it. I would find that a challenge. Yeah, I would find that a challenge. But yeah, that's what Domenicali has to say. So we'll see. We'll see how it develops over the season. And my final story tonight. Hey, Mr. T Jinx, I see you in there. Jimbo's in there as well. I was meant to say Chevrolet. So it's, yeah, you're talking about a Chevy engine. Yeah, why not? GM know how to build a V8. I don't think anyone can argue with that, Jimbo. Mr. JT Jinx, what annoys me is paying to match 12 Sky Sports channels on Now TV just to watch F1. Yes, Mr. Jinx, very, very annoying, I should imagine. Yeah, it's expensive. That's the problem. Trying to get a stream to watch it, you know, there's no way around it. If you want a high quality stream, you gotta pay for it. You gotta either use a VPN, find a cheaper place to buy the content. But yeah, it's freaking annoying. Let me get on to the final story of the night, though, guys. It's been a fun chat. I love Friday nights. It's so much. I love Friday nights. It's always very active and loads going on in the chat. Right, final story. So Piastri responds to the management change as Mark Webber steps back. We told you the story earlier on this week that Piastri has changed. He hasn't changed his management. Let's be clear. Mark Webber is still his manager. They have just changed some roles and responsibilities within Piastri's inner circle. Webber will no longer be trackside as much. He will be there for 1 or 2 Grand Prix, but he'll no longer be trackside. Webber is going to be concentrating, as we know, on Piastri's commercial activities. So, but Piastri was asked about this because everyone was trying to get that quote, because I said it the other day where we talked about the story that McLaren didn't want Mark Webber trackside anymore, right? They actually wanted Piastri to change his management. That was what was coming out from the paddock, and Piastri solved it a different way. He wasn't going to throw Mark Webber to the curb. What he did was he removed Mark Webber from being trackside and kept Mark Webber as his manager, handling all the commercial parts of Piastri's career. So the media were trying to poke Piastri to get a quote. They want Piastri to say, yeah, McLaren told me to do it. You're not going to get that from Piastri. There's no way he's going to do that. But this is what Piastri said about Mark Webber. He said, heading into the new season, the Australian driver confirmed that he'd made changes to his management team. Mark Webber is still Piastri's manager. He will take a step back from his trackside support role and put his focus instead on commercial matters. And he was asked probing questions. He said, why? Basically, why have you done this? He said, there wasn't anything specific. We just made a decision for things to look a bit different, Piastri explained to the media in Bahrain when asked if there was a specific moment from 2025 which led to the decision. He said, Mark is still very much involved. I've been in contact with him a lot over the last few weeks. He just won't be trackside as much anymore. So that's really the extent of it. But yeah, there's nothing specific that triggered it. And then he was asked about Bahrain. He said, I think it's definitely been a learning curve. Obviously, there's still some things we need to do as drivers. They're certainly very different to what we did last year. But I think there's a kind of optimism around driving that way, especially as drivers. I think we're getting our head around new things that we need to do. So he's basically saying, look, I think naturally we've all probably found performance. And just with performance, it's made some creature comforts a little bit nicer as well. So I think we're making progress. Let's see what Melbourne is like. So yeah, he's giving some positive spin on McLaren, but we all wanted to know the Webber situation. And here's my take on it. Some of you have heard this before, but here's my take on it. I think McLaren did want Webber out of the picture. Piastri's gone, look, I'm not doing that. I think Webber was very vocal about last year. He probably confrontational, held McLaren to account. And McLaren didn't want to be held to account by Piastri's manager. They want their driver to behave and be good little boys. And Mark Webber, is a proper lad. He's not scared of confrontation. He will hold you to it and count. And Piastri's clever, really, because he knows that is the type of person he wants in his corner, right? You want a fighter. You want someone who's not prepared to chin someone if necessary. And Webber's that guy. I would have him as my manager, 100%. I think that's what it is. So yeah, that's what I think has gone on. Piastri's kept him in place, just not trackside. And just before I wrap up tonight's stream, here's a little picture of the new Webber. I've showed you before. Pedro Matos with Oscar Piastri, his race engineer from his F2 days. That's his new trackside person. And look at him. He looks happy. He looks smiley. And he's got some skills as well. You got to remember, he was his race engineer during his time in F2, where he won the F2 championship. So he has been in the trenches with Piastri. Piastri's got a close bond with him, and it's a good person to have by his side, trackside. So yeah, there you go. A nice little picture to end on, but I'm going to go to the chat before I do. Anthony Ford says, McLaren don't like Mark Webber, and that's what it comes down to. Completely agree. If only we could stream the race on Discord. You get me in trouble. Dawley says, I couldn't figure out the Discord. Are you a robot test? Got lucky on day 2. I don't understand Discord either. Don't get it. Chef says, about refueling or at least prevent Stefano Domenicali from shortening the races. He's not going to shorten the races. I know he talked about that, but that got kicked out a touch. But yeah, I do think it's a nice way to wrap it up. It's been a good hour, guys, hasn't it? It's been a good hour. Friday night. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So yes, just to wrap it up, just to let you know when I'm back. I'm back Sunday Night Live, 7:30 GMT. Make sure you're with us. Thank you to everyone that's participated in tonight's show. Do me a favour, make sure you smash the like on the stream before you go. And if you are brand new and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. Join our community. I hope you can see from the chat we've got the best community here at F1 Grandstand, and you are very welcome. That's it for tonight. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on Sunday. That's all.